Friends, seekers of truth, souls thirsty for ancient knowledge, pause for an instant in the whirlwind of the everyday. Have you ever wondered what destiny is hidden by the veil that covers the personal objects of those who have transcended? Do you believe, perchance, that a simple everyday object is merely inert matter, devoid of echo or memory? Allow me to guide you along a less traveled path, through the arcana of a wisdom as old as time itself, a truth that few dare to contemplate in its fullness. Before you even consider the idea of donating or disposing of the belongings of a loved one who has departed from this earthly plane, I implore you to listen with an open heart to these words, for what you are about to learn will forever transform your understanding of life, death, and the indissoluble bonds that tie us to the beyond dot in this sanctuary of the Word. Where the alchemy of thought stands as a lighthouse, we will not only unveil a fragment of forbidden knowledge, but we will invite you to a true metamorphosis of your consciousness. Common perception dictates that death is an abrupt end, a clean break with everything material. But the deepest traditions, the veiled texts, and the voices of our ancestors whisper a different truth, a reality where energy does not perish, but transmutes and endures. This is a journey towards spiritual enlightenment, an immersion into the metaphysics of grief that transcends superficial sadness to reveal the eternity of the spirit. You will understand how each object is a vessel, a chalice that absorbs the vibrational essence of its owner, an energetic imprint that becomes a subtle bridge between worlds. This is not mere advice. It is an invitation to awaken to a deeper dimension of existence, to recognize the sacredness of what we consider mundane, and to honor the persistence of love beyond the confines of the physical. It is a fragment of truth that will resonate in the deepest part of your being, a key to unraveling the mysteries that dwell on the periphery of our daily perception. Throughout this revealing journey, we will draw back the veils to examine the very nature of this energetic imprint, how objects become imbued with their owner's vibrational frequency, becoming authentic repositories of memories and emotions. We will delve into ancestral wisdom that advises a period of respect and contemplation before interfering with these personal relics. We will explore the fascinating notion that the soul, in its transition, does not immediately detach from this plane, using these objects as temporary anchors, as beacons of connection. You will learn to identify the subtle signs that indicate these persistent energetic links, inexplicable movements, aromas that evoke distant memories, or sensations that make your skin tingle, manifesting the continuous presence of a spirit. We will distinguish the hierarchy of the most intimate objects, such as jewelry, clothing, and photographs, those that hold a more potent spiritual charge. And crucially, I will warn you about the unsuspected risks of irresponsible energetic transfer when donating or selling without proper purification, a practice that can radiate echoes of sadness, illness, or imbalance to those who receive them. But we will not only point out the dangers, we will equip you with ancestral techniques of energetic cleansing, sacred methods that allow you to purify these objects and free them from any residual energy. You will discover how, far from being mere memories, these objects can transform into channels of communication, carriers of messages, signs of protection, and expressions of love from those who preceded us. Everything will culminate in the understanding that conscious respect for these belongings is a way to honor memory, transcend grief, and keep alive the flame of love, the only bond that truly defies the limits of mortality. So, if your spirit yearns to unveil these arcana, if your soul resonates with the promise of a hidden truth, I invite you to stay with us. Connect with this wisdom. Let it penetrate your being. Like this video if you feel the call of truth. Share this vital message with those whose lives have been touched by absence. And above all, subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of the revelations we will continue to unveil. This is the first step in your own inner alchemy, a path to enlightenment that begins now, my dear truth seekers. Let us delve into the first arcana, the vibrant truth, that the objects around us are not mere silent witnesses. Far from being inert, every piece of your trousseau, every ornament, every tool is a vessel, a receptacle that breathes and becomes impregnated with your own essence. This is not a modern belief, but an ancestral echo that resonates through the ages. Ancient cultures, devoid of our Cartesian science, possessed an intuitive wisdom that recognized the animation of the world. The shamans of Siberia, the Egyptian priests who consecrated amulets, the Inca goldsmiths who infused their creations with sacred intentions, all of them understood that matter can be a canvas for the spirit, an anchoring point for energy. It is not empty symbolism. It is a palpable reality for those with the right sensibility. Hermetic texts, whispered in secret in the forbidden libraries of Alexandria, already spoke of the anima mundi and how its spark manifested even in the inorganic, imbuing it with a subtle memory. But how does this transmutation occur? The key lies in vibrational frequency. Your existence, your emotions, your thoughts, each emits a unique resonance, a field of energy that radiates from your being. When an object comes into intimate and prolonged contact with you, it becomes a mirror of that vibration. Think of that piece of jewelry you never take off, that bedside book you hold every night, that tool with which you have forged your dreams. Through the law of sympathetic resonance, the object absorbs, like an etheric sponge, the waves of your joy, your sorrow, your concentration, your love, or your fear. It is not a mere imprint. It is a molecular impregnation, a memory encoded in its subtle structure. Some mystics described it as a residual ether, or an energetic signature that remains attached. It is why an object of great sentimental value can evoke such powerful feelings, not only because of the memory it represents, but because of the energy it still emanates. Consider the scepter of a king who ruled with justice, or the dagger of a warrior who bravely defended his land. These are not just historical artifacts. They are condensers of the will, intention, and destiny of their bearers. The Templars, according to their veiled chronicles, used objects imbued with the energy of their rituals to amplify their purposes, understanding that the object became an extension of their own soul. Similarly, a talisman, consecrated and charged with a specific intention, is not a mere trinket. It is a beacon of directional energy, an anchor for a desired frequency. The imprint is so powerful that it can persist through time, affecting future owners, projecting echoes of its origin. That is why the choice of what surrounds us is not trivial. It is a declaration of intentions, a reflection of our inner alchemy. But what happens to these energies when they change hands? How do we purify what has been touched by the pain or despair of others? This is a portal we must cross with caution, for the revelations that await beyond it are as vital as those we have just unveiled. My dear seeker, this is where ancient wisdom offers us crucial light on the delicate art of transition. The question of how we purify what has been touched by the pain of others and the imprint of a departed soul leads us directly to the heart of the most ancient funerary rites. It is not a simple matter of mundane hygiene, but of a profound understanding of the interaction between spirit and matter. Primeval cultures, from Celtic clans to African tribes and Far Eastern civilizations, understood that death is not an abrupt cut, but a gradual process of detachment. It is not merely about the grief of the living, but an intrinsic respect for the journey of the spirit of the deceased. It was believed that the soul did not immediately abandon its earthly shell or the objects it most cherished. Its essence remained, a kind of vibrational echo, a connection that needed time to dissolve. Therefore, touching a deceased person's belongings too soon was considered a desecration, an interruption of the delicate transit of the soul to other planes. Consider the ancient Egyptians. Not only did they mummify the body and prepare the soul's journey with complex rituals, but the pharaoh's belongings were sealed in his tomb, not only to accompany him, but to prevent the interruption of his journey to the Duat, the shamans of Siberian tribes, in their most archaic practices, often declared a warrior's fallen objects taboo for a full lunar cycle, or even an entire year. This period allowed the vital essence to dissipate or transcend, not disturbing its return to the Great Spirit, or preventing the energy of the living's grief from permanently adhering. But there is also the energy of grief itself, that dense wave of sorrow, loss, and unfulfilled love that emanates from loved ones. An object touched by the fresh sorrow of those who remain can become charged with a resonance of pain, a low frequency that does not favor the well-being of its inheritor. It is a dense etheric field, a psychic cobweb that envelops the object, capable of imbuing the new possessor with the melancholy or even the unresolved conflicts of the previous owner. The Hermetic texts of Alexandria, in their most veiled passages, spoke of an anemic mist that clung to objects, capable of transmitting shadows of the psyche, if not treated with reverence and patience. This grace period, or time of respect, was not mere superstition, nor a cruel imposition. It was a practice of spiritual hygiene, a measure of energetic protection. It was a sacred time for the veil between worlds to thin enough for the soul to continue its journey without being dragged down by material ties. It was an opportunity for the emotional vibrations of the sharpest pain to subside and for the energy of the deceased to dissolve or reintegrate into the cosmos from which it came in a harmonious way. Understanding this is to apply alchemy to life itself, even in the face of death. It is to understand that, even in absence, there is a process of energetic transformation that must be respected, not only for the deceased, but for the purification and balance of the living. It is learning to release, to let go, to allow energies to follow their natural course without clinging or contaminating. But once this transition period has ended, what happens to the belongings? How are these imprints truly released? And what is the true purpose of the memory we preserve in these objects? The answer lies in the rites of purification and blessing, an art as ancient as grief itself. These rites, my apprentices, are not mere formal ceremonies or symbolic gestures without foundation. They are, in fact, intricate acts of spiritual alchemy, a conscious manifestation of the will to liberate. From the ancient Egyptian priests, who meticulously purified the deceased's belongings with sacred incenses and lustral waters before their burial, to the Celtic traditions that employed fire and wind to cleanse dwellings and possessions, the intention was underlying to transform attachment into remembrance, psychic residue into neutral energy, the belief in the Egyptian Ka, that vital force that could remain anchored to objects, resonates with this profound truth. The ancients did not seek to destroy the memory of the loved one, but to prevent their essence, or a part of it, from becoming trapped, an ethereal prisoner in the material world, unable to continue its journey. Every ritual washing, every purifying, burning, every blessing with aromatic herbs or chanted songs was an invocation for the spirit to find its way lightly, and for the objects to shed their subtle charge, returning to being mere inert supports, or, at best, receptacles of a healthy and detached memory. Understand that the alchemy of these rites converts the density of sorrow and possessive attachment into the likeness of conscious gratitude. It is not about erasing the presence of the departed, but about purifying it, allowing the energetic imprint they left behind to dissolve harmoniously. This is not done to forget, but to remember from a space of unconditional love, free from the heaviness of a forced or unconscious connection that could drag us, the living, to the same plane of stagnation. Objects, as we have said, are not just carriers of memory. They are also vibration, and a vibration that has served as an anchor, as an etheric channel between planes, must be carefully rebalanced once its transient purpose has concluded. Imagine the ancient linen that absorbed the essence of its owner, the watch that marked the time of their life, or the book that contained their most intimate thoughts. All of them remain subtly impregnated. The purification rites act as an energetic reset, a sweep of residual impressions so that the object's energy can flow freely again without the resonant echoes of a past that no longer belongs to it. It is an act of respect, both towards the deceased by facilitating their journey, and towards the purity and balance of the cosmos's energy as a whole dot by releasing these ethereal anchors. My dears, we also free ourselves from our own invisible chains of unresolved grief, from the unconscious belief that a part of the loved one still resides, prisoner in an embroidered handkerchief or an ancestral jewel. It is a vital step for our own evolution and healing, an act of consciousness that transforms the pain of loss into a deeper understanding of impermanence, of the perpetual dance between planes, and of the true nature of connection. But how is this dye impregnation achieved with the purest effectiveness? What forces are invoked? What elements are used to transmute these ethereal anchors into pure liberation? The answer lies in the deep wisdom of the elements themselves, in the intrinsic power of conscious intention, and in the arcane symbols that resonate with the primordial vibration of the universe, secrets that have been jealously guarded by keepers of knowledge throughout the ages. True liberation requires an understanding of the vibrational nature of everything, and of how, with the right hand and precise knowledge, its resonance can be reconfigured, opening the door to a new stage of understanding ... But before delving into the alchemy of liberation and the elements that promote it, we must first sharpen our senses, those that the profane world has put to sleep, to discern the presence of these invisible bonds. How then do these ethereal threads manifest, which still unite a soul with what it once considered its own, even beyond the veil? I speak of manifestations that, to the untrained eye, are mere coincidences. To the open heart, they are whispers from the other side, invitations to a deeper perception. A slight movement of an inanimate object, a piece of jewelry that falls, without apparent cause from its place, a garment that seems to sway slightly in the absence of a breeze. These are not the earthquakes of the earth, but the micro-earthquakes of the spirit, the reverberation of an anchored energy, seeking a last echo in the material plane, a faint tremor of its ethereal imprint. And the aromas, my brethren. The scents, a waft of their favorite perfume in a closed room, the faint trace of their tobacco, or the sweet memory of the flower they loved, appearing and disappearing without a physical source. Olfactory memory is deeply ingrained, and the soul, in its transit, sometimes leaves these olfactory traces as signals, as a last aromatic breath that persists in the object that contained its quintessence. Also the sensations, those goosebumps, without cold, the intangible brush, the impression of a subtle presence when touching a photograph or a pocket watch, a sudden chill in a corner of the house, an inexplicable oppression when crossing a specific room, or a familiar warmth that envelops a particular object. These are resonances, somatic echoes of residual energy, the ethereal touch of a memory that still vibrates in matter, trying to communicate its existence. Beyond the physical, there are subtle signs, the murmurs of the subconscious that surface at the threshold of waking and dreaming. Recurring dreams where the loved one interacts with their belongings, or where their presence feels indissolubly linked to a specific object. Ancient gnosis, in texts such as the Veiled Scrolls of Hermes Trismegistus, already warned us about the imprint that the soul leaves on everything it interacts with, an energetic trace that adheres like an invisible dew. This imprint, beloved, seekers, is what resonates, creating a peculiar atmosphere. A room that always feels charged with melancholy, despite outward joy. A corner that evokes sadness or nostalgia, not from conscious memory, but from the energetic density that still emanates. The object is not just an object. It contains a vibrational portion of its history, a fragment of its owner's soul. It is the awareness that something of vital essence still pulses, faintly but undeniably, in the fabric of the material. To recognize these signs is not to invoke a ghost, but to recognize the persistence of energy and the need for a harmonious transition for all that lies and has lived. Trust your intuition, that inner voice that distinguishes between coincidence and energetic causality. Your heart, more than your eyes, will be your most accurate compass on this journey of discernment. The art of de-impregnation, of releasing these threads of light and memory, is not an act of forgetting, but of honoring. It is allowing the flow of life to continue without ties, for the spirit to rest, and for the object to be purified for its new purpose, or to simply exist in peace. Having recognized the existence of these ethereal marks, how do we then proceed? With conscious de-impregnation? What rituals, what ancestral elements are the guardians of this sacred transmutation? The art of de-impregnation, noble seeker, is a fundamental step, yes. But before releasing those threads of light and memory, we must first discern which threads are the strongest, the deepest moorings. Ancestral wisdom teaches us that not all energetic imprints are equal. There is a hierarchy, an order dictated by the intimacy and constancy of interaction. That which has been closest to the body, most imbued with emotion and purpose, is what most tenaciously retains the imprint of its possessor. Think of jewelry, for example. Small talismans that merge with the skin, absorbing not only sweat and warmth, but also joys, sorrows, vows, and silences. An engagement ring, an inherited necklace, a protective medal. These are not mere ornaments. They are energetic time capsules. The ancients, from the Egyptians with their amulets protecting passage to the afterlife, to the Celts with their torques imbued with mystical power, understood this truth. They knew that metal, like certain gems, not only refracts light, but also channels and retains vibrations, becoming a receptacle for the will or essence of the wearer. The skin, that permeable and sensitive organ, acts as a direct bridge between the inner being and the object, charging it with every heartbeat, every fleeting thought. Then there are articles of clothing. A ceremonial robe, the clothes of a departed loved one. A uniform worn during crucial moments. These fabrics, which embrace the body day after day, become imbued with our olfactory essence, with the microfauna of our skin, but more deeply, with our vital energy. The fibers become a weave of our own aura. In the folklore of many cultures, the absent person's clothes are kept not only as a tangible memory, but as a way to keep their energetic presence alive, a custom that, though emotional, can sometimes hinder the release of the deceased spirit and the healing of the living themselves, anchoring them to an unfinished cycle. It is not an act of conscious attachment that charges them, but the very porous nature of the textile, which absorbs and retains, like an ethereal sponge, the biomagnetic field of the wearer dot and photographs, those mirrors of the soul frozen in time. From Victorian daguerreotypes to modern snapshots, each image captures more than a physical likeness. It encapsulates a moment, an emotion, a portion of the consciousness of those portrayed. It is no coincidence that many ancestral cultures, from the native peoples of the Americas to those of ancient Sumeria, feared photography, believing it stole a part of the soul or its essence. This belief, which at first glance seems superstition, reveals a deep intuition about the power of the image to contain and project energy. A photo, especially of people who are no longer with us or of events of great emotional intensity, can become a node, a focal point for the energy of what it represents, radiating its imprint into the environment and sometimes tying the spirit to the earthly. Thus, the key lies in physical and emotional proximity. the more intimate the connection, the more powerful the imprint. These are the objects that demand our attention, those that require a look beyond the obvious. They are beacons of residual energy that deserve our respect and our art of liberation. But how do we differentiate the resonance of a simple memory from the powerful charge that anchors and disrupts the vital flow? Are there subtle signals that these charged objects emit, guiding the trained eye of the seeker of the arcane towards their hidden truth, towards the exact point where the imprint has taken root most strongly? These veils are not always subtle. Sometimes the truth is that this energy, once embedded in an object, does not simply dissipate. It persists anchored, seeking a host, a new resonance. This is where one of the most insidious and often ignored dangers in our materialistic world lies: energetic transfer. When a loved one transcends, their belongings become time capsules, not only of tangible memories, but of their vital essence, their joys, their sorrows, and even their ailments. Imagine the cane of an elder who suffered years of agony, or the jewelry of a person whose life was marked by deep melancholy. Every touch, every sigh exhaled in their proximity, every tear shed upon them imbues the object with a specific vibration. These objects, when donated or sold without proper cleansing or a liberation ritual, transform into bridges, into conduits for these energetic imprints. Whoever receives such objects, especially if sensitive, in a state of emotional vulnerability, opens themselves to the reception of these residual energies. It is not uncommon to hear accounts which conventional science dismisses as mere coincidence of new owners who, after acquiring a piece of furniture or jewelry from a deceased person, begin to experience patterns of inexplicable sadness, chronic fatigue, disturbing dreams, or even, in more extreme cases, the appearance of physical ailments similar to those of the previous owner. Ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian traditions, for example, were meticulous in handling the possessions of the deceased, often burying them with them or purifying them with smoke and sacred chants, aware that the spirit of the deceased and their energy could remain tied to their personal effects, influencing the living. Forbidden Hermetic manuals, guarded in secret archives, describe in detail how shadows of the soul can cling to material possessions, seeking continuity or a form of manifestation on the earthly plane. This exchange is not always malevolent on the part of the spirit, but a simple law of resonance. An energy of sadness will seek to replicate itself. An imprint of illness will seek a body that can manifest it. It is a subtle but powerful dance of vibrations. Therefore, the idea of cleansing an object is not mere superstition. It is an arcane practice to release trapped energy and prevent it from causing disharmony in a new home. It is an act of respect, both for the deceased and for the new owner, a recognition that we are not just physical bodies, but beings interconnected by invisible threads of energy and emotion. The fundamental question that then arises is, how can we, with knowledge and reverence, dissolve these invisible chains and ensure that only light and peace endure, thus protecting those who dare to inherit the past? The answer lies in ancestral wisdom and in the willingness to listen to the whisper of what was. This is a path that requires more than mere intentions. It demands a deep understanding of the mechanisms of the ether and the human psyche, of how the veils between worlds can be lifted or sealed. But how to discern the appropriate methods, the ancient rituals that truly cut these ties without causing new disturbances, ensuring that the passage of an object is one of renewal and not of contagion? The answer, disciple, does not lie in complex, forgotten tomes, but in the primordial wisdom inscribed in the very elements that surround us, archetypal forces that the ancients revered and employed with mastery. Smudging, salt, water, sun, and sound are more than mere substances or phenomena. They are keys that open and close etheric portals, purifying what time and emotions have impregnated. Consider smudging, this ancestral rite where smoke rises, a visible bridge between the earthly and the ethereal. What secrets does sacred sage, Palo Santo, or copal hold when consumed by flame? It is not just the aroma that purifies, but the transmutation itself. Fire, devourer and transformer, releases the essence of the plant, turning it into a cloud that adheres to stagnant energies, envelops them, and lifts them, dissolving them into the upper air. Amazonian traditions and the shamans of the Great Prairies knew this power. Smoke not only cleanses, but also carries prayers and purposes, sealing and protecting. It is a sacred breath that exhales the old and exhales the new. Then salt, that white crystal, essence of earth and sea, silent guardian of purity. From the depths of the Dead Sea to the Andean salt flats, salt has been recognized as a substance capable of absorbing and neutralizing. The Egyptians used it in their embalming rites, not only to preserve the body, but to purify its residual energy. In popular folklore, a pinch of scattered salt wards off the undesirable. Its crystalline structure has the ability to break down negative energetic patterns, attracting them to itself like an invisible magnet, and then dissolving them. Can we perhaps underestimate the crystalline power of the earth to restore lost balance? Water, that fluid blessing that dissolves and washes away. From the sacred springs of Delphi to the ablutions of the Ganges, water is the universal solvent, not only of physical, but also etheric impurities. Immersing an object in running water or sprinkling it with blessed or intentioned water is to invoke its power to wash away emotional and energetic imprints. Water has memory, yes, but it also has the ability to forget, to reset, to erase narratives etched in matter. It is a liquid mirror that reflects truth and then purifies it, carrying away what no longer serves to the great oceans of the collective unconscious. And let us not forget the sun, our king's star, source of life and all manifestation. Its light is not just heat and brightness, but an emanation of pure vital energy. Exposing an object to the sun's rays is allowing the most primordial force of the universe to saturate it. The sun has the power to burn, to consume shadows, to transmute the dense into the light, to recharge and revitalize. It is the great cosmic alchemist who infuses every atom with a new frequency of light, dissipating any residue of darkness or stagnation. Do we truly understand the sun's work, its patient but relentless purification? Finally, sound that subtle vibration that resonates to the very soul of matter. From Tibetan bowls and shamanic gongs to Gregorian chants or ritual bells, sound possesses the ability to reorganize energetic fields. The vibrations of a pure frequency can break patterns of stagnant energy, disharmonize embedded memories, and restore the object's natural harmony. It is as if the universe sings a melody that dissipates the discords of the past, reaffirming the object's resonance to its original state of peace and neutrality. Each note is a small wave of transformation that travels through the ether, reordering chaos. These elements, my dear seekers, do not act in isolation. Often, their power is multiplied when combined, creating synergies that few have fully mastered. But how are these forces orchestrated? Is there an order, a ritual that maximizes their potential, or is the practitioner's intention the true alchemy? Behind each purification? Thus, my dear seekers, true purification transcends mere cleansing. It is the tuning of a frequency, the restoration of an original vibration, a sacred dialogue with the cosmos. A power resides in the intention that animates each element, transforming shadows if your will is pure. But which of these primordial forces resonates most deeply in your own spirit, marking the path to your inner renewal? If this spark of knowledge has illuminated your path, I urge you to share it with other hearts thirsty for truth and to join our brotherhood of seekers. Subscribe now to not miss future revelations. And to continue unveiling mysteries, a new portal awaits you. The hidden power of rituals, creating your sacred space. The next stage of your enlightenment awaits you.